Hey, everybody, and welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, we're going to tackle something that you specifically requested,
Oh,
data storytelling.
ew.
We're going to learn how to make data sing,
Okay.
and we've got some fantastic insights from Cole Nussbaumer Knaflich's books,
Okay.
Storytelling with Data, a data visualization guide for business professionals,
Okay.
and storytelling with data.
Let's practice. I like it.
She is such a master at turning data into these compelling narratives.
Yeah.
I'm so excited to unpack her wisdom with you.
Me too. It's fascinating how often we get lost in the weeds of creating visualizations
Yeah.
and kind of forget about the most important element.
What's that?
The story those visuals are meant to convey. It's like
So
you have this beautifully crafted puzzle, but you've lost the picture on the box, you've got all the pieces,
yeah.
but you have no idea what they're supposed to create.
Right. Yeah, it's so true. And that's where data storytelling comes in.
Yes.
Cole really emphasizes that it's not enough to just present data. We need to present it in a way that resonates with our audience and drives action.
Totally.
It's about making data meaningful,
Yes.
not just measurable.
Absolutely.
Data needs to have meaning.
Yeah, Cole's big idea framework is a brilliant starting point.
I love that.
It's this simple yet powerful concept of distilling your message
Okay.
down to a single concise sentence that captures your point of view, what's at stake, and the key takeaway for your audience.
Let's unpack that big idea concept a little bit further.
Okay.
Can you give me like a real-world example of how that works in practice?
Totally.
Yeah.
Imagine you're presenting data on employee engagement.
Okay.
Instead of overwhelming your audience with charts and numbers,
Right.
you could start with a big idea like, despite recent initiatives, employee morale remains stagnant, indicating a need for a more targeted approach to address underlying concerns.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
So right from the start, you set the stage.
Yeah.
You highlighted the problem
Yes.
and hinted at a potential solution all in one impactful sentence.
Exactly.
That's incredibly powerful.
It is very powerful.
Wow.
It's like giving your audience a roadmap for the journey they're about to take with your data.
Right.
And it keeps you, the storyteller, focused on the core message you want to convey.
This makes so much sense.
Yeah.
And speaking of the audience,
Yes.
Cole really stresses the importance of knowing who you're talking to.
For sure.
It's not a one-size-fits-all approach, is it?
Definitely not.
Yeah.
It's about stepping into their shoes and understanding their perspective.
Okay.
What are their priorities? What level of detail do they need?
Yeah.
What questions are they likely to ask?
These are all good things to be thinking about.
Yeah.
It's like tailoring a presentation for a group of marketing executives versus a team of data scientists.
Yeah.
They're coming to the table with different levels of knowledge, different expectations, and likely different priorities.
Precisely.
For sure.
The marketing executives might be more interested in the high-level trends and the impact on the bottom line, while the data scientists might want to delve into the statistical models and methodologies.
Right.
Understanding these nuances is key to crafting a story that truly resonates.
So once we have our big idea and we understand our audience, how do we actually start structuring our data story?
Okay.
It's more than just throwing a bunch of charts on a slide, right?
Definitely. Think of it like building a house.
Okay.
You wouldn't just start randomly placing bricks
No.
and hoping for the best.
I hope not.
Right. You need a blueprint,
Uh-huh.
a framework to guide the construction process.
Okay.
Cole suggests thinking about the classic narrative structure of beginning, middle, and end.
Okay. I see where you're going with this.
Yeah.
So instead of just presenting a series of disconnected data points, we're weaving them together into a cohesive story with a clear arc.
Exactly.
That's cool.
Yeah. You start by setting the context, introducing the characters, which could be your data points or trends,
Okay.
building tension, reaching a climax, and then ultimately guiding the audience to a resolution or a call to action.
It's amazing how something as seemingly dry as data can be transformed into a compelling narrative
Yeah.
when you approach it with the right storytelling mindset.
Totally.
It's about engaging both the head and the heart.
Absolutely.
I love that.
Cole uses a fantastic analogy in her book.
Okay.
She compares data storytelling to creating a delicious meal.
I like where this is going.
Okay. So you need the right ingredients, your data, but you also need to know how to prepare them, visualization and analysis.
Yeah.
Season them narrative and insights and present them in a way that appeals to your guests, which is your audience.
I love that analogy.
Yeah.
It really captures the essence of data storytelling. It's about transforming raw information into a digestible and satisfying experience for your audience.
Yeah.
It's about making them want to savor every bite.
Exactly. And just like with a good meal, you don't want to overwhelm your guests with too much at once.
That makes sense. So this is where Cole's emphasis on decluttering and focusing attention comes into play, right?
Exactly. It's about removing distractions and guiding the audience's eye to the most important elements of your story. Just as you wouldn't overcrowd a plate with too many dishes.
Right.
You don't want to overcrowd a chart with too much information.
So it's about being intentional with every element of our data story.
Right.
From the choice of visuals to the placement of text and the overall flow of information.
Exactly. Every choice we make should serve the purpose of clarifying our message and engaging our audience.
This has been so insightful.
Good.
I'm already starting to think about how I can apply these principles to my own work.
Awesome.
But before we get too far ahead of ourselves, let's dive into some specific techniques and examples from Cole's books to really see these principles in action.
Let's do it.
Okay.
Welcome back.
Okay, so let's delve into some of Cole's practical tips for transforming data into these compelling narratives.
Okay. One technique she highlights is the power of annotations. Using words strategically to enhance our visual and guide the audience's understanding.
It's like adding those little sticky notes to a report.
Yeah.
Pointing out the key takeaways and make sure everyone's on the same page.
Exactly. Annotations provide context, clarify relationships, and emphasize the so what of our data.
Can you give me an example of how this works in practice?
Yeah, so imagine you have a line chart showing sales trends over time.
Okay.
Instead of just presenting the chart with a generic title like sales performance,
Right.
you could add an annotation that says, sales peaked in Q2 due to the successful launch of our new product line, but have since plateaued, suggesting a need for a new marketing campaign.
Wow, that simple annotation completely transforms the chart.
Yeah.
It's no longer just a visual representation of numbers.
Yeah.
It's a story about a specific event and its impact on the business.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And notice how the annotation not only highlights the peak, but also draws attention to the plateau and hints at a potential solution, a new marketing campaign. That's the power of using words strategically to guide the narrative and prompt action.
It's like adding a voiceover to a silent film. Suddenly, the story comes alive. Cole also talks about the importance of choosing the right visual for the story we want to tell.
Absolutely.
Right.
While there are endless chart types and visualization options, Cole emphasizes that simplicity is often the key.
I like that.
It's not about using the most complex or visually stunning chart, but rather the one that most effectively conveys the message.
So it's less about showing off our data visualization skills and more about serving the needs of our audience and the clarity of our story.
Exactly. Cole often points out the pitfalls of using overly complex charts, like pie charts with too many slices, or 3D charts that distort proportions.
Yeah.
They might look fancy.
Yeah, they look really cool.
But they can actually hinder understanding.
It's like trying to fit too many ingredients into a dish.
Yes.
It ends up muddling the flavors instead of enhancing them. Sometimes a simple bar chart or line chart is all you need to make your point effectively.
Exactly. The key is to choose a visual that clearly showcases the relationship you want to highlight and aligns with your big idea.
This all makes sense, but I have to admit I sometimes get caught up in the aesthetics of data visualization. I want my charts to look polished and professional. Does Cole have any advice on balancing visual appeal with clarity?
She does. Cole emphasizes that good design is essential.
Yeah.
But it should always serve the purpose of enhancing communication, not distracting from it.
So it's about finding that sweet spot where aesthetics and functionality work harmoniously together.
Exactly. Cole provides practical tips on things like using color strategically, choosing appropriate fonts, and eliminating unnecessary chart junk, all elements that contribute to a clean, professional look without sacrificing clarity.
It's like decorating a room.
Yeah.
You want it to be visually appealing, but you also want it to be functional and comfortable.
Exactly. And just like with interior design, there are principles of visual perception that can guide our choices in data visualization. Cole touches on the Gestalt principles, which describe how our brains tend to group and interpret visual information.
Okay. I've heard of Gestalt principles before, but I'm a bit fuzzy on how they apply to data storytelling. Can you give us a quick overview?
Sure. One of the key Gestalt principles is proximity. Elements that are close together are perceived as belonging together.
Okay.
In data visualization, we can leverage this principle by grouping related data points or chart elements to create visual hierarchy and guide the viewer's eye.
So instead of scattering data points randomly, we can cluster them strategically to emphasize patterns and relationships.
Exactly. Another important principle is similarity.
Oh.
Objects that share visual characteristics like color or shape are perceived as being related. We can use this principle to create visual distinctions between different data categories or to highlight trends.
It's fascinating how these psychological principles can be applied to data visualization to make our stories more intuitive and impactful.
Absolutely, and Cole also stresses the importance of white space, giving elements room to breathe. Just like in a well-designed room, white space creates a sense of visual balance and allows the eye to rest,
Yeah.
preventing the viewer from feeling overwhelmed.
It's like the pause between musical notes. It gives the music its rhythm and allows the listener to fully appreciate the melody.
That's a beautiful analogy. And speaking of music, Cole often talks about the importance of creating a sense of flow in our data stories, just like the movement of a symphony.
Okay, I'm intrigued. How do we create that sense of flow and movement in a data presentation?
One technique is to think about the order in which we present our visuals.
Okay.
Instead of just randomly arranging charts on slides, we can create a logical sequence that builds upon each previous point, leading the audience through the story step by step.
It's like crafting the chapters of a book, making sure each one seamlessly transitions into the next, keeping the reader engaged and eager to see what happens next.
Exactly, and just like a good author uses transitions to connect different parts of the story, we can use visual cues and verbal transitions to guide the audience through our data narrative.
So instead of abruptly jumping from one chart to another, we can say something like, now that we've seen the overall sales trends, let's zoom in and examine the performance of our individual product lines.
That's a great example, and visually we might use color or shape consistency to create a sense of continuity between different charts or slides.
It's all about creating a smooth and engaging journey for the audience. And I imagine this becomes even more important when presenting live in front of an audience.
Absolutely. Cole dedicates a whole section in her book to the art of delivering data stories live.
Wow.
She emphasizes the importance of knowing your material inside and out, making eye contact with the audience, and using your voice and body language to bring the story to life.
It's like being a stage actor. You have to embody the story and connect with the audience on an emotional level.
Exactly, and just like an actor uses pauses and changes in pacing to create dramatic effect, we can use those same techniques in our data presentations to emphasize key points, build suspense, and keep the audience engaged.
This is so insightful.
Yeah.
I'm realizing that data storytelling is so much more than just creating charts and graphs. It's about weaving together data, visuals, narrative, and delivery to create a truly impactful experience for the audience.
You've got to, it's about tapping into the power of storytelling to make data meaningful, memorable, and persuasive.
I'm feeling incredibly inspired to go out there and tell some amazing data stories. But before we wrap up, I'd love to hear about a specific example from Cole's book that really resonated with you.
There's this one example that stands out to me. It's about analyzing customer feedback data for a software company.
Ooh, I'm all ears. Tell me more about it. So this software company wanted to understand their customer feedback,
Right.
but they were drowning in data.
Yeah.
I've been there. It can feel so overwhelming.
Absolutely. And that's where Cole's storytelling approach really shines. In this example, they had tons of survey responses. Okay.
With open-ended feedback, not just numbers to crunch, but actual words and sentiments to decipher.
It's like having a giant stack of postcards from customers.
Yes.
Each with a unique story to tell. How do you even begin to make sense of that?
Cole guided them to start with a clear objective.
Okay.
What were they hoping to learn from this feedback?
Yeah.
What were the key questions they wanted to answer?
Right.
Once they had that clarity, they could start organizing the data and looking for patterns.
So it's back to that big idea framework.
Exactly.
Starting with the core message, even when you're dealing with qualitative data like customer feedback.
Exactly. In this case, their big idea was to identify areas for improvement
Okay.
and enhance the overall customer experience.
That makes sense.
With that in mind, they started categorizing the feedback, grouping similar comments together to see what themes emerged.
It's like sorting those postcards into piles based on the topics they address. Maybe one pile for product features, another for customer service, and so on. That's a great analogy. And once they had those categories, they could start quantifying the feedback, counting how many responses fell into each category, and identifying the most common issues or areas of praise.
So even though they started with qualitative data, they were able to extract quantifiable insights that could then be visualized and communicated effectively.
Exactly. They could then create charts showing the percentage of positive versus negative feedback for each category,
Uh-huh.
or highlight specific customer quotes that exemplified common themes.
It's amazing how data storytelling can bridge the gap between quantitative and qualitative information, weaving together numbers and narratives to create a richer understanding.
And Cole stresses that the story doesn't end there.
Right.
Once you've analyzed the data and crafted your narrative,
Yeah.
it's crucial to share your findings with the right people and inspire action.
It's like taking those sorted piles of postcards and delivering them to the appropriate departments, product development, customer service marketing, so they can actually use the feedback to make improvements.
Exactly. And in the software company example, they created a series of presentations and reports tailored to different stakeholders,
Okay.
highlighting the key insights and recommending specific actions based on the customer feedback.
It's about closing the loop, using data storytelling, not just to inform, but to empower and drive change.
Absolutely. Data storytelling is a powerful tool for influencing decision-making, improving processes, and creating a more customer-centric culture.
This has been such an eye-opening deep dive. I'm feeling energized and equipped to take my own data storytelling to the next level. What are some key takeaways you want our listeners to walk away with?
First and foremost, remember that data storytelling is about communication, connecting with your audience, and conveying information in a way that resonates and inspires action.
It's not about technical wizardry or fancy charts. It's about clarity, purpose, and a genuine desire to share insights that matter.
Absolutely. Start with your big idea, that single sentence that captures the essence of your message.
Know your audience and tailor your story to their needs and interests.
Structure your narrative with a clear beginning, middle, and end.
Use visuals that enhance understanding, not distract from it.
And most importantly, practice, experiment, and have fun with it.
Data storytelling is a journey of discovery, and the more we explore, the more effectively we can unlock the power of data to inform, inspire, and make a difference.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the world of data storytelling.
We hope you've gleaned some valuable insights to help you transform your data into compelling narratives.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep telling those amazing data stories.